Good morning, children. Sai Ram. So, how are you all? I hope you all are fine. Great. Students, in previous video we have started social and political life, chapter number 5, that is Women Change the World. So, in this video we will continue with this chapter. But before moving further, let's take a quick recap what we have discussed in the previous part of this video. So we discussed how women of today breaking the stereotype with the change of time. We discussed the breaking stereotype story of Lakshmi Lakra. Lakshmi Lakra, the first women engine driver of the Northern Railway, right? But still women lag behind the men in almost every field. Basically, women's position and status have been improved with the change of time, but still women's lag behind the men in almost every field. So students, in this video we are going to discuss what changes can be seen with the emergence of new ideas about learning and education in 19th century, right? So in this video we are going to discuss what changes can be seen with the emergence of new ideas about learning and education in the 19th century. So let's move on to the topic. So the first topic is learning for a change. So one positive change that is visible today is that more and more children have started to go in school. Basically, going to school, as we know, that is an important part of life. As you all know, going to school is an important part of our life. And today it is very difficult for us to imagine that school and learning could be seen as out of bounds or not appropriate for some children. Basically, in the past, at that time in the past, very few people they learned reading and writing. Basically, in the past, many children they learned their work, or we can say the work, their family members and the elder one. And at that time for girls, the situation was worse. In most of the communities, they taught son to learn read and write. But girls were not allowed to learn the alphabets. Even in the families where the skills like the pottery, weaving and craft were taught, the contribution of the daughters, women's was seen as secondary. Women was seen as a supportive. Then in 19th century, as I said, in 19th century, new ideas emerged about learning and education appeared in the society. But there was a lot of opposition to educate girls. But yet many men and women they just made effort to open a school for the girls. So many women they struggled to learn to read and write. So now we are going to discuss about those women who also struggle to learn read and write. So let's first read the experience of Ras Sundari Devi, who also struggled to learn read and write. Ras Sundari Devi, she was born in 1800. Basically, Ras Sundari Devi, she was a housewife from a rich landlord's family in West Bengal. Clear? She was not allowed, as I said, like she was not allowed to learn to read and write. Basically, during her time, some around 200 years ago, there was a prevalent belief that if a woman learned to read and write, so she would bring bad luck to her husband. But Ras Sundari Devi took this belief as false because she was not at all superstitious. So she just took a strict decision and she just taught herself how to read and write in secret well after her marriage. Then, at the age of 60, she just wrote her autobiography. Clear? At the age of 60, Rajsundari Devi, she just wrote her autobiography in the Bangla language. In which language? In Bangla language. And her book title name is Amar Jeevan, is the first known autobiography written by an Indian woman. Is it clear? So basically, her book title is The Amar Jeevan, is the first known autobiography written by an Indian woman. Basically, as I said, Rajsundari Devi was a housewife and she just born a rich landlord family, belongs to the West Bengal, and at that time it was believed that if a woman learned to read and write, so she would bring bad luck to her husband and she become a widow. So despite all this, she just taught herself how to read and write in secret well after her marriage. So this is the experience of Rajsundari Devi. Now let's read the next experience, Ruqayya Shekhawat Hussain, right? First of all, Ruqayya, she was born in a rich family and she was a Muslim feminist, right? She was a Muslim feminist and a social reformer who dedicated her life to education and empowerment of women. Basically, she just dedicated her life to the education and empowerment of the women. Though she knew how to read and write Urdu, but she was stopped from learning Bangla and English. Why? Because in those days, only boys were taught English. Clear? She just knew how to read and write Urdu, but she was stopped from learning Bangla and English because at that time, in those days, only boys were taught English. However, she just learned to read and write Bangla and English, and afterward she became a writer and she just wrote a remarkable story titled Sultana Dream in 1905. Clear? So who wrote Sultana's Dream? Ruqayya Shekhawat Hussain. She just wrote a remarkable story titled Sultana Dreams. In which year? In 1905. Then in 1910, she started a school for girls in Kolkata, which is still functioning well. Clear? Now, next experience, Ramabai. She was born in the year of 1858. Pandit Ramabai, she just set up a mission in Khedagaon near Pune in 1898. Clear? Pandit Ramabai, she just set up a mission in Khedagaon near Pune in 1898. Basically, this was a place where widow and poor women were encouraged not only to become literate but to be independent. Basically, at that place, they were taught to skills from carpentry to running a printing press, skills that are considered male preserve. Now, this mission, which was set up by Pandit Ramabai, is still active today and does a lot for women's upliftment. Right? So basically, unlike Rajsundari Devi and Ruqayya Hussain, who were not allowed to learn to read and write, basically large number of girls attend school in India today, and despite this, there continue to be many girls who leave schools for reason of poverty, inadequate schooling facilities and discrimination. Clear? So now the next topic is schooling and education today. Today, no doubt, basically more and more girls have started attending school, and still they just lag behind women. Today, both boys and girls they attend school in the large numbers. Yet, as we will see, there is still remain difference between the education of boys and girls. India has a census. India has a census every 10 years which count the whole population of the country. Clear? Census basically. India has a census every 10 years, okay, which count the whole population of country. It also gathered the detailed information about the people living in India, like their age, schooling, what work they do, and so on. So with this information, what we have collected through this census, we use this information to measure many things like the number of literate people and the ratio of men and women, right? So, as per the most recent census of 2001, 80.9% male are literate, but the figure is comparatively very low in case of females. Basically, only 64.6% females are literate in India. So, the percentage of male group obviously is higher than the female group according to this census. Okay, now here is a table that shows the percentage of girls and boys who leave school from different social groups, right? Okay, you have probably noticed that in the table that SC, first of all, SC girls. So SC is scheduled caste. SC means scheduled caste, and it is the official term for Dalit. Clear? SC means scheduled caste, and it is the official term for Dalit. And second one is the ST girls. ST means scheduled tribe. ST means scheduled tribe, and it is the official term for Adivasi. Clear? SC means scheduled caste, and it is the official term for Dalit, and ST is the scheduled tribes, and it is the official term for Adivasi. So you have probably noticed that in the table that SC and ST girls leave school at rate that is higher than the category of all girls. Clear? This means that girls who are from Dalit and Adivasi, that means SC and the ST backgrounds, are less likely to remain in school. The 2001 census basically also found that the Muslim girls, along with SC and ST, Muslim girls are less likely than Dalit and Adivasi girls to complete primary school, while a Muslim girl is likely to stay in school for around 3 years, and girls from other communities, they spend around 4 years in schools. Now, basically for this, there are several reasons why children from Dalit, that means SC and ST and Muslim communities leave schools. So let's read the reason. So first of all, in many parts of the country, especially in the rural areas, right? Where? In the rural areas, or we can say the poor areas, they may not even the proper schools nor teachers who teach on a regular basis. And if a school is not close to the people's home, so there is no transport like buses or vans, so parents may not be willing to send their girls to school. Even many families are too poor right? Third reason is basically many families are too poor and they are unable to bear the cost of education of their children. And the next reason is facing discrimination. Basically, as we know that boys may get preference in this situation. Many children also leave school because they are discriminated against by their teacher and classmates. So all these are the reason. First one is like in the rural and poor areas, there may not even the proper schools and not teachers who teach on a regular basis. Schools are too far, many families are too poor or unable to bear the cost of education, and many of them they just facing discrimination against by their teacher and the classmates. So all these are reasons why children from Dalit, Adivasi and Muslim community they leave these schools. Clear? Now, next topic is the women's movement. Women and girls now have the right to study and go to school, right? Now there are other spheres like the legal reform, violence and health, where the situation of women and girls has improved, and these changes have not happened automatically. Women individually and collectively they have struggled to bring about these changes, right? Women individually and sometimes they collectively have struggled to bring about these changes, and these changes, or we can say this struggle, is known as the women's movement. Clear? Women individually and collectively they struggle to bring about these changes, and this struggle is known as the women's movement. Even women's movement supported men, also supported the women movements. Now basically during the women movements, many different strategies they have been used to spread awareness, fight discrimination and seek justice. The various way women apply to fight discrimination and seek justice. So here are the glimpses of these struggle. First, campaigning. So basically campaigning to fight discrimination and violence against women are an important part of women's movement. So campaigns have also led to new laws being passed, and a law was passed in 2006. Just note down this point, campaigns have also led to new laws being passed, and a law was passed in 2006 to give women who face physical and mental violence within their homes, also called domestic violence, some legal protection. And similarly, efforts made by the women movements led the Supreme Court to formulate guidelines in 1997 to protect women against sexual harassment at the workplace and within educational institution. Now the next, through the raising awareness. The important part of women's movements work is to raise public awareness on women's right issues, and their messages has been spread through the street play, songs and public meetings. Next, through protesting. So the women's movement raises its voice when violations against women take place, or for example when a law or policy act against their interest, right? So public rallies, demonstrations are very powerful of drawing attention to injustice against the law. And the last one is the showing solidarity. Basically the women's movement is also about showing the solidarity with the other women and causes. So all these are the various ways through women apply to fight discrimination and seek justice. Clear? Okay. Now let's read the important terms that we discussed in this chapter. So first is stereotype. So stereotype, that means when we have create fixed image of a person or a community, right? Next is discrimination. Discrimination means whenever treating people unequally. So it means discrimination. Discrimination means treating people unequally. And violation means when someone forcefully break the laws or a rule or openly show disrespect, we often say that he or she has committed a violations. That means breaking law. Next is protest. Protest means to raise a voice against the unjust, to raise voice against the wrong action or decision. Next, SC. SC means scheduled caste. So scheduled caste, it is the official term used for Dalit class people. Clear? SC means it is the official term used for Dalit class of people, and ST scheduled tribe, and this is the official term used for Adivasi. Clear? ST, this term is used for Adivasi class of people. And the next term is the autobiography. Autobiography, the life sketch of the writer himself. Clear? Autobiography, that means the life sketch of the writer himself. So here we have completed this chapter. Now students, what do you have to do? You have to write down these important terms in your fair notebook and also learn it. Okay, then we will meet again in next video. Till then, bye, thank you, and have a great day.